Mycelia is a dynamic game of tactics, a competition for space and resources to build your own fungi kingdom. The game follows the life cycle of fungi, growing mushrooms to score points, sporing those mushrooms to expand your mycelial network, and eventually seeing those mushrooms decay to unlock special actions. The aim of the game is to score as many points as possible. There's a few different ways to do this, and I'll explain this later in the video. Before we can start the fun, we have to learn how to set up the game. The main board is made up of individual triangle tiles. Shuffle these up and place face down in 2 piles. Then select the top 6 from each pile and set up in the star shape as shown here. The board will grow and adapt as the game goes on, so be sure to leave plenty of room around the initial shape. Place an insect token on any tile that has the insect symbol in the middle, then leave the rest to one side. Each player should place their 5 player mats in front of them, ordering them from 1 to 5 pips. Then place your mushroom tokens on the spaces that match the number of pips. Place your spore counters for each mushroom in the coloured slot. Your spores are the little coloured wooden cubes. Keep these handy next to your player mats. Each player also starts with 1 insect token. Shuffle all the mushroom cards and deal 3 cards to each player and leave them face down for now. Then place the remaining deck face down. The first player is decided by the last person to see a mushroom in the wild. Alternatively, you can place a spore from each player into a hat, or use your hands if your milliner's out of town, and see who's drawn first. This is your mother mushroom piece. It's a very useful tool in the game and is also the catalyst for the start of your fungi kingdom. In turn order, going clockwise, each player places their mother mushroom on one of the 6 centre triangle tiles. You cannot start on a black tile if there is one present. Mother mushrooms can never be on the same tile as another player's mother mushroom. If the player places their mother mushroom on a tile that has an insect token, they immediately gain that token. Place the dice and the endgame marker to one side. Finally, reveal the top 3 cards from the deck and place next to the deck, revealing the market. Players can now look at their cards and begin play. On a turn, a player must choose 2 different actions to perform. There are 6 actions to choose from: move, spore, explore, fruit, discover, and decay. There is a handy player aid that reminds the player of what each action does. Once the player has finished performing their actions, the next player moving clockwise around the table performs their 2 actions, and so forth until the end of the game. A good tip to help indicate the end of your go is to pass the win die to the next player and stare at them intently. I'll now go through the 6 different actions in more detail. The only piece that you can move in the game is your mother mushroom. As your action, you can move your mother mushroom up to 2 spaces. Movement is only over a flat edge of a tile. You can never move onto or through a tile that already has a mother mushroom present. The mother mushroom is a useful tool in the game to access different coloured triangle tiles that you need to spore from. It can be used to strategically block areas of the board, connect your networks, claim other players' spores, as well as hindering other players. You can block other players from sporing or decaying by moving your mother mushroom on top of another player's mushroom token. Reveal one of the face-down triangle tiles from the pile and add it anywhere on the board. At least one flat edge must be touching. If the tile has the insect symbol on, immediately place an insect token on the tile. Because players can add more tiles to the board, it is slightly different every time you play and naturally expands to the player count. There are 5 types of tiles. The 4 coloured tiles, red, green, brown and yellow, which represent different nutrients and minerals that the mushrooms need to grow. The special wild black tile can be used as any colour when fruiting mushrooms. Simply pick up one of the 3 mushroom cards on show, or you can gamble and pick up a face down card from the top of the deck. There is no card limit to your hand. Each mushroom card displays the common mushroom name as well as its Latin name. In the top right, a diamond shape displays the number of points gained when this mushroom is fruited. The bottom right shows how many spores this mushroom produces, and on the left, the spores required to fruit the mushroom. The more complex a mushroom to grow, the higher the points. When you turn the card round, you can see the decay action bonuses. but I'll explain decaying shortly. You can spore from either your mother mushroom or any of your fruited mushrooms. The spores are represented by the coloured cubes. Before you spore, you must vocalise which mushroom you are choosing, either one of your fruited mushrooms or your mother mushroom. This selection is where your spores will disperse from. The number of spores for your fruited mushroom is determined on the card. Your mother mushroom will always spore 2 as standard. The spores are spread by the wind, and you never know which way the wind is going to blow, so you have to roll the wind die to determine which direction your spores will spread. The 3 symbols on the die correspond with the symbols on each triangle tile. These are abstract designs, but an easy way to remember is to name them O, U and A, as they look similar to the vowels. Once you have determined the wind direction, you add the appropriate number of spore cubes onto the board. The first spore is always placed on the same triangle tile as the mushroom you've chosen to spore from. The following spores spread in the direction determined by the wind die, flowing off the edge that shows the matching symbol and continuing in a triangle spread. The only symbol you need to worry about is the one on the tile where your mushroom sits. Each subsequent spore flows off the next available flat edge. If you ever have 3 spores, then you have a choice whether to place your third spore either left or right. If not enough tiles are available, the spores are not placed, so you might lose out on precious spores if you're sitting too close to the edge. Mother mushrooms have no limit to how many times they can spore. Fruited mushrooms, on the other hand, have a lifespan and only have the capacity to spore twice. You keep track of this by using the spore counter below each mushroom slot on your player mat. Move the counter up each time you spore. When sporing a fruited mushroom, it's best practice to move your spore counter up before placing your spores on the board. Spore ownership. When the spores spread from your selected mushroom, they might land on a tile where another player's fruited mushroom or mother mushroom sits. If this happens, you'll no longer have domain over that spore. An easy way to remember this is that any larger piece, so a mushroom token or a mother mushroom, on a tile has domain over any spores on that tile and can spend them as their own. The mother mushroom always trumps another player's fruited mushroom. So if a player is blocking another player's fruited mushroom, any spores on that tile are controlled by the mother's player. Mothers can still spore when blocking another mushroom. You only have a finite amount of spores, so if you run out, the only way to get them back from the board is to spend them to fruit mushrooms. To fruit a mushroom card from your hand, you must have the correct number of spores located on the correct coloured tiles. But, and here's the important bit, they must be connected. All your coloured pieces represent your network, so your mother mushroom or a fruited mushroom can connect spores if needed. If a spore you need is on the other side of the board, or cut off by another player's mushroom or mother mushroom, then these spores aren't connected and can't be used together. You can have separate networks, but you can't combine spores from different networks to fruit mushrooms. If you do have the correct spores to spend, you remove them from the board and add them back to your spore supply. You then pick up any available mushroom token from your player mat and place the card on that slot. The mushroom on your player mat is represented on the board by your mushroom token. Place your mushroom token on any of the tiles from where you spent spores to grow it. You cannot grow 2 mushrooms on the same tile, but you can grow a mushroom on the same tile that your mother mushroom currently occupies. If you have spent another player's spores, their spores go back to their supply. If possible, it is always a good idea to spend another player's spores before your own. So in this example here, we want to grow the Fool's Funnel mushroom. This requires 1 brown spore and 2 red spores. There is no limit to how many spores can be on a tile, so you can use multiple spores from one tile if needs be. In this case, you'd collect the 2 spores from the red tile and 1 spore from the brown tile. Return the spores to the supply and then place the mushroom token on the board and the card on the corresponding player mat. You can now spore from this mushroom. Your player mat should never be empty. It should either have a mushroom token or a mushroom card on top. When one of your mushrooms has spored twice, you now have the option to go into Decay. You do this in the following order. Select the mushroom token that is going into Decay and remove it from the board. Place it back on your player mat, reset your spore counter by moving the counter to the leftmost slot. Then remove the card and slip underneath the player mat. You can now resolve the mushroom's decay action. There are 3 types of decay actions. The lightning bolt symbol indicates an instant action. These must be performed as soon as you decay your chosen mushroom. The pink decay cards, with the infinity symbol, indicates a game upgrade. These upgrades are immediately applied to you and continue for the rest of the game. You cannot double up on game upgrades if you decay 2 mushrooms with the same upgrade. The reddish decay action, with the mushroom and arrow symbol, indicates a mushroom upgrade. Once under your player mat, any future mushrooms fruited on that specific player mat gain that upgrade. There is no limit to how many mushrooms you can decay under one slot, and all mushrooms fruited or decayed count towards your score. Insect tokens. Whenever a new triangle tile with the insect symbol is added to the board, an insect token must be placed on the tile. You can only gain insect tokens with your mother mushroom. You pick up the tokens by landing on or moving through a tile with your mother mushroom. You can use your insect tokens in one of 3 ways. You can spend 2 insect tokens to move another player's mother mushroom. You can move them to anywhere on the board, including on top of another player's fruited mushroom. You can also spend 1 insect token to refresh the market. Simply discard the 3 cards on display and place another 3 face up next to the deck. You can spend your tokens at any point on your turn, and it does not count as one of your 2 actions. Your spent tokens go back to the supply. You can also keep your insect tokens as they are worth points. Every 2 insect tokens you have at the end of the game is worth 1 point. There are no half points in the game, so if you have 3 insect tokens, you still only gain 1 extra point. The end of the game is triggered by a player having a decayed mushroom in all 5 slots on their player mats. The game immediately ends and no other turns are taken. If the player decayed on their first action, they do not get a second. The player who ends the game gains the end of game token, which is worth 5 points. All the players add up their scores, including all fruited and decayed mushrooms, plus any insect tokens. The player with the highest score wins and is crowned king or queen of the fungi kingdom. In the event of a tie, the player who has grown the most mushroom wins, and if it's still tied, the player with the most insect tiles is crowned the winner. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, leave in the comments below, and I really hope you enjoy playing Mycelia.